We start?
Yeah, so YouTube says we're live, so should be good.
All right. Okay. So yeah, so sorry, I forgot to put the article we're reading. We're going to read Nim and Hackenbush. So if you're following along with the articles, I think these are um not as clear as some other Martin Gardner articles. So let me see whether I can do something with it. Okay, but to begin with, let's start with the conversation we were in the process of asking why binary yesterday. And I don't really have like a great answer to it, but in terms of intuition, I'm going to offer something, and I'm very happy to hear if anybody else has anything they'd like to add in as well. All right, so to recap the conversation, what we said is that if you can get, so a NIM is a game in which there are rows of counters. You're allowed to take as many counters as you like from a single row. The person, if you don't get to move, you lose basically. So if the person who manages to empty out the table or the board wins. So for instance, something like this, 2 rows with a single counter each, we said that if you're able to get the board to this state, if you leave it like this, you would win the game because your opponent, whatever your opponent did, you would have the option of mirroring it. And then there was this conversation about how you could see this as write out the values, write the numbers out, find the XOR sum, and so essentially write the numbers out in binary, add it up bit by bit, and if it's 0, it's a board, a safe board. All right. And I don't know if I'm not going to prove anything. I'm going to just say something that is perhaps useful, perhaps not, and we'll see how everybody feels about it. So the question really is, what is it that characterizes the board above to be the exact same? I mean, in terms of safe, unsafe, both the board with a single counter in 2 rows, single counter each in 2 rows, and a three-row set with 1, 2, and 3 somehow share a property. And the question is, what could that property be? Can there be an instinct for this? And I wanted to say the things that I had thought of before, like, yesterday, maybe. What you want to think about is that no matter what one person does, right? So now, if this is a safe board, doing anything to it makes it unsafe. And then there is a response, a mirroring action that could bring it back to a safe board. So you want to think about, is there any sort of a decomposition? And the issue with this pile of 3 was that, well, if I wanted to just think about taking one away, it wouldn't really work because there are several ones I could take away. So is there some way to think of this, breaking it up into pieces in some manner, so that whatever, sorry, I'm trying to erase and instead I'm drawing lines. Hold on. All right. I don't know how I did that, and I can't get rid of it. Sorry. Oh, I see. And so essentially, you're looking for some sort of. I talked to Neil about this today, and she's not going to like the argument I'm about to make for very good reasons, perhaps. And the way I think about it is that, well, you could break your NIM row into these sort of subgroupings. Exactly correct. Exactly correct. This exactly. But the question then, I think, in part, why binary, right? So I think there's two parts to that. One, that of course there is a binary decomposition. That binary decomposition has this property that you seek, that it can, that you changing something, you can flip it back to the state you seek. But more than that, the thing is, you want to be able to do it in a single turn. So um, uh, partly because it's just a two action thing, right? So yeah, so I don't know if this intuition is at all useful. And Neil did tell me, Vinay, did you want to say something? Or maybe at the end, or however you want to. Yeah,
No,
okay. Yeah,
I mean, at this level, this does make a lot of sense so far. So yeah.
yeah. Okay, so maybe whenever I talk to you, I should just make a slide and show it to you. Because, sorry, that's, yeah.
No, this is perfect. Thanks.
All right, yeah. Okay, so essentially, okay, so with that small sort of hand wavy description of Y binary from yesterday, let's talk about, so again, so we're looking now at games that are NIM-like, in that they can be analyzed in a manner similar to NIM. And again, as we did with tic-tac-toe today, I'm probably going to end up just introducing a couple of games, and we'll probably talk about them more on Monday. Now let's describe a completely apparently different game. All right, so there's a chessboard, two players, because I didn't want to put white on a white chessboard, red and blue. Placing counters are placed from either end. Like for instance, you have a spinner, say, that says a number from 1 to 8, which dictates how far from the back edge you place a the first counter, and then the other. So you're not allowed to the reds have to be on one side of the blue. So I can't swap the counters, but somewhere along this column we take turns placing counters, or counters are placed. Right? In this way, this whole board is populated. And now the game starts. The game starts by saying players take turns moving any counter of their choice as far along as they like. Like for instance, if I chose to move this, I could move it maybe to this next one. I could maybe move it 2 over as far as I like, except no further than my opponent's piece. So this is as far as I could move it. Players take turns to move until there are no valid moves. So once, counters are up against each other like this, neither party can move. And once there's no more possible moves, the game terminates. And the question is, is this reminiscent of anything we've seen? And could we think about analyzing it somehow? Okay, so
Can we move horizontally and vertically both?
No, you can move only down along the column.
Okay.
Okay, but
There's a question about how do we win?
how do you win? All right. Well, just like with NIM, whoever makes the last move wins the game. So you move until neither party can move. The first person to be unable to move loses the game. The last move wins. All right. So not familiar at all. Okay, so then let's think about how many moves are available. So let's look at the space between these counters. So the blue counter can move this way. The red counter could move that way. There are extensions of this game where you allow counters to reverse, but let's not add into our... as of this moment, blue is moving from the blue side toward the center. Red is moving from the red side toward the center. They move till they meet. Or rather, they can move till they meet. Okay, so these are the moves available between the two parties. Okay, yeah, something like that. Oopsie. Does that help? I mean,
Yeah, this is good, quite clear.
No, yeah. I mean, yes, no. Right. Am I? Yeah. Does anybody else? Oh, yeah. Okay.
How to move.
How to move. How to move between the two. All right. Okay. So let's pretend after the first. Okay.
Hmm.
So how about this?
You want to play with somebody, Joe?
Yeah, exactly. Would anybody like to play?
Also, you'll have to enable annotations, I think.
Oh, sorry. Apologies. Oh, that's why no one's. Okay, sorry. Hold on. All right. Can people now? Yeah, all right. Neha moves one forward there. Nice. Well, I'll mirror that. Yeah, well,
I'll change my color.
oh no, yeah. Oh yeah, okay, fine.
Okay.
Let's go ahead. While she does that, should I calculate? Maybe not. Maybe anybody else could play against Neha. It doesn't have to be me. So okay, wonderful. I assume Ravi you're trying to play, but yeah, all right. Neha does one step forward. So to answer Manas's question, the counters can move. So advancing like pawns on a board, right? That they can only move forward, right? As many steps as you like. They can't jump over each other. So this isn't really checkers. You can't jump over your opponent's piece. As soon as you meet your opponent's piece, there's no more moving. You can move any piece of your color that you like. Okay, so now we can see, so this column, there's no more moves allowed. There's no more moves allowed here or here. I mean, you can keep playing. I'm just talking in between. Yeah, this one's gone too. All right. And this one's down to I'm a little confused. So who played last? I thought that was Neha played last. All right.
I played last. Yeah. Here in the first column.
Yeah, okay, all right. Okay, so any idea what you were playing? Does it remind you of anything or
Mm,
no, not really?
no.
Okay, then let's try a different game.
Okay.
What if I were to ask if you could play Nim? Oh, why did I set up such a giant board? Okay, so now these are the rows. I've changed the game around to yesterday's familiar row, familiar game of Nim. I've set up, how many is this? I've set up 6. Yeah, chessboard with 2 zeros. I've set up 6 rows, and perhaps you guys could take turns removing counters from any row you like until there are no counters left on the board.
Hello. Yeah.
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 I just right. I just saw that, and so I
Okay. Right. Any analogy, or are they completely entirely different? Or
There must be something binary, I feel, like the way we did yesterday.
forget the analysis. Just ask
Huh.
yourself, what game are you playing?
Okay.
Okay,
Uh,
so do you
hmm.
see any relationship perhaps between moving your pieces forward along this board,
Mhm.
and if I were to ask you to play Nim
Hmm.
on a bunch of counters, yeah.
Hmm.
Would it be okay if I cleared out the annotations? Or did you want to keep? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think, let me erase my stuff as well. Oh, no.
Uh,
All right, that's okay. That's all right.
no.
Sorry?
You said if you hit Command Z, does it come back?
Nope.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
Just try to see if I can recreate some of that
So
boxes.
is it like so these spaces that are in between the cells, now we are occupying them. Um,
Which is like kind of consuming, taking away,
yeah,
removing them, right?
yeah, kind of. Yes.
The
That's
gaps are like the name.
Like, mhm.
exactly. So the gaps are now like your NIM counters, and as you move forward, it's like you're removing them because they're no longer available. How to play this game? One by one, or just playing? No. Well, all the games we're looking at, two-player, turn-based, perfect information, deterministic, games.
Mm.
So until I say otherwise, everybody takes turns. There are only two players playing. If I change this part of the conversation, I will make sure I make it abundantly clear. Yeah, so for now, we're assuming that it's players take turns. Yeah, Neil's made a very pretty right. So I was so okay. So Neha, does that make sense? I'm picking on you because I know you. But if
Yeah.
anybody wants to go, yeah. Yeah. Anyhow, but genuinely, does that make sense?
To me, yes. Yeah. Like these are the spaces, and we are actually filling up the spaces here.
Correct. Okay. So actually, let me ask this. Does anybody want me to go over this anymore or talk about it in any way? If so, please feel free to unmute. There are only 20 people. Unmute yourself and say whatever you feel like saying. I mean, hopefully related to games.
Meanwhile, I think there's a couple of comments in the chat confirming that we are on the same page. So
Oh, okay. Wonderful. All right. So let me say that I will trust you all to tell me if we're not. And I will ask once in a way. Okay? Oh, no. All right. Okay. Thanks, Neil. Okay. So now let's look at a game that looks absolutely does not look anything like the stuff we've been doing before. This is a picture from the Gardner article we're reading. The game here is called Hack and Bush. And what you see is you draw any picture you like on the board. Players take turns chopping at any edge they like. So, for example, if I took my axe and I cut the base of this tree, the whole tree would come falling down. All right. However, maybe if I went and cut the spider here, this part, one leg, is that really a spider? It doesn't have enough legs. Whatever that is, that leg would fall to the ground. All right. The players take turns chopping. Whoever chops the last branch wins the game. Okay, so now edges are kind of like your, it might be a little bit harder to see that this, I had one more chessboardy thing, but I think I seem to have put it somewhere else. Okay. What happens if you cut the pillar of the house. Okay. So gravity only. Okay. So hanging by one leg is still hanging, right? So the house would stay up. So we are going to admit a very limited form of gravity. So the house will not tip. Previous surface,
So maybe just to clarify though, if you do get rid of both the pillars, things will fall, right? Everything.
Exactly correct. So I think the question. Wait. Do you mean the both pillars, or do you mean okay? So can you annotate? Do you mean that I should cut? Say, do I cut? Yeah. All right. Oh, so sorry. Just the one.
Yes, my question was that if we cut, let's say, this pillar, right?
Yeah.
So the red one. So
Yeah.
does the entire house fall, or does
No,
this,
nothing happens. Just that edge vanishes.
and the thing inside the house, it too stands, right?
Yeah, everything.
Yeah. Everything stands. Were you to exactly now? If you did that, then
I think let's just
well,
put
well, okay. So the way the way this is envisioned, if you do what we have now, the inside of it. So yeah, so the roof will come down. I think that's a window and a spider that will come down. This thingamy there will also come down. However, the apparent cauldron and the door will stay put. I don't think that's a cauldron. Whatever this thing is. So the things that will remain would be that and that. So if both red pillars are cut, those the things in purple, the things encircled would still remain.
So
Nishant,
the connected dots will be falling down, ma'am.
the connected
Connected dots.
well, at least I think I've marked in green everything that I think should fall. No?
Yes, I do think so. Yeah, I think you've got them all.
Yeah.
Green and reds will come down. The reds you've already removed, so the green will.
Yeah, and
as
as Nilesh is saying in the chat, basically the quote unquote subgraph that is no longer connected to the ground is what vanishes. One thing that I might recommend is I think there are playable versions of Hackenbush online. So if you actually go and play one of those with your own kind of instances, you get a feel for what's happening, right? Yeah. So
I'm
that's
going to try to break it down a little bit.
sure.
But yeah. Only 1 second, just a second. All right. I am sorry.
Clear out my annotations. Is that okay?
I beg your pardon?
I'm going to clear my annotations. Is
Yeah,
that-
I've done mine as well. All right. So essentially, this impossible looking thing, I'm going to leave you to fill in all the details and do the whole thing yourself. It's kind of fun. But let me walk you through how you would turn. So, okay, so let me, I won't bury the lead. This too, in this version, Hackenbush 2 is Nim. All right. So let me try to break it down and show you why this is so. But let's start with taking just
Sorry,
the
have you movements? That's again the person who has no moves left.
exactly the person who has no move. So people take turns chopping edges of their choice. Play proceeds until there is nothing left standing. Whoever's unable to cut anything down loses the game. So the last chop wins the game.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so for example, let's take this tiny little, I don't know what it is, maybe a pole of some sort, right? What we're going to try to do is, okay, so what could happen here? You could cut off the top part and you'd have just this little stump standing. You could cut off the bottom part, it would all come falling down. How do you assign a weight? So it's in some ways, how many counters are there in the stick? How, like, what's called the weight? What is in Gardner's article? I don't know that I've seen this word weight used for Hackenbush positions anywhere else, but what Gardner calls in the weight, if you go back and read this article, is essentially the length of the row, the number of counters in some sense, a number of edges that you can separately chop here. Okay. So the question is, what if I did something like this? Now you would tell me that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 things I could chop. How would I assign a weight to this? Well, we're going to use prior knowledge in the sense that we're going to think about NIM and say, well, look, if the chop, so we're going to, so the way you're going to proceed to assign a weight is to start from the nodes that are free, right? So the tip of the tree, and then you number these 1, right? To say there's, it's the very end, right? And then what you do is when you come down to number the next one, you kind of check, pretend that is like a NIM heap, that this is a 1, 1, 1 NIM heap, and ask, so what would the sum of these? So the way we thought about it yesterday, this would kind of be balanced by that, right? So the way you assign the weight is to then add 1. So the remaining value is 1. So I add 1 and call this a 2. I might have to do that again. So tell me if that made no sense and which part of it made no sense. Okay, so
Okay, I mean, I don't go over it again. In the
yeah,
sense
sure.
that
Sure. I just
just
don't want
missed-
to say the same exact sentences over, which is why, again, if nobody volunteers, I will proceed to continue volunteering, Neha.
So we can chop one branch or stem at one branch at a time, or as many as I want.
Okay, so you will chop one edge or one branch, but as a result of that, perhaps several branches fall. Okay, so that's kind of equivalent to saying, so if this were NIM, this would be counter 1, counter 2 in some sense, right?
Okay, the bottom one is 2, or
Well, think about it this way. I could remove 1 or I could remove both. If I were to say with NIM, if I say you are allowed to remove only from the outer edge inward, say, right? So supposing I were to say, well, here's a row of NIM, right? And I tell you, well, you can take away as many as you want. You can take away 1, 2, or 3. Just start from the outside. Yes, I remove 2 from there. So sort of like that. What I'm thinking here is, well, you could chop this edge or you could take both edges away. So this is like removing 2 edges.
Sure.
Okay. So, well, then you might tell me that, look, well, I would say this is like chopping 1, 2, 3, 4 edges. Right? But that would be kind of, we would be ignoring all this stuff we learned from NIM. So what we do is we say, well, look, if a position is balanced, if I know that were you to chop this, I would chop that. I will kind of, I will remove them from consideration because there would be no difference, right? So essentially, these, in the sense that we talked of at the beginning of this conversation, I could, by a mirroring strategy, I could always turn this into that, right? To turn this one into that one. Right? What you do is you go there, you check the NIM sum of the attached pieces, and then you assign the weight. So you start by looking at everything right at the end, call those 1. Then you say, well, this is like a 1, 1, 1 row.
Okay.
Which is effectively just a 1.
Okay.
Okay. And then you add 1 more because in addition to that, here's a new edge. All right.
Okay.
The weight of all these things, I mean, this was a detour explaining how you proceed to play the game. I don't know if that made things worse or not, but I'm going to argue that these two things here are both of weight 2.
Okay.
I guess somebody please stop me if this is not making sense.
If I add one edge here,
Yes.
am I audible? If I make one edge here, now it is different.
That is different. Great question. So what would the weight be then?
So now, okay. So now this the net. So this will be equivalent. All these could be chopped off, and net weight would be 1 here. If I do this,
Well, it would be a 1, 1, 1, 1,
yeah.
right? And okay, maybe I should draw that out the way we were drawing them. It's a 1, 1, 1, 1. It's a separate chopping. 1 does not cause. So like if I were to draw this as an heap, this thing here, I would draw it like that.
Yeah.
Because there is a way to take the whole thing down, right? It's legal to take a whole row. It is legal to chop from the base of this tree and make the thing fall down. However, what you've done here with the several branches, I mean, the way to cut them all down would be here, but I wouldn't be able to do it up there, right? So these are all ones. There are 4 ones. Let me redraw. Or maybe, can I just erase it? I'll erase all mine. So those will be available. Okay, so the question is, what is the weight of this new tree into which you've added a branch?
Yes. Should I remove this?
No, keep it.
Okay.
Argue for me what the weight would be. So this now is, this is a 1, that is a 1, that is a 1, that is a 1. So the question is, what's this?
Yes. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. And
So in terms of NIM, I think it'll be a row of 2 and a row of 1.
Wait. So, okay. So you're looking here and asking above this point, how many branches are connected? The answer to that is 4, right? But they're not, you can't just add them up like that, because think about the way you would play this game. It's like, yeah, I don't think I'm making this sufficiently clear. Hold on. Could you say that again? Why do you, somebody thinks it's a 5. Could you, whoever just was speaking to me, I'm really sorry. I don't seem to be able to track who I'm talking to. Actually,
Yeah,
yeah. Who am I talking to?
this is Abhay, ma'am.
Okay. Go ahead, Abhay.
Yeah, so just the way for 3 branches, right? The way we'll play it, let's say if we
No.
don't cut
Hold on a moment. When you say 3 branches, are you talking about this or are you talking about this?
this
And
one.
you see them as the same. Which is this one?
So this one and a branch, like a trunk below these 3.
I mean, well, forget what's below for a minute. Okay, so in your at this moment, are these two the same to you?
I mean, is the one on the right connect? I mean,
Yeah. I just didn't want to draw one long purple line. So yeah, the nodes here. Yeah.
oh no, because
And there's a node here. Because there is a way for me to
yes,
break down this whole thing, right? I
yeah,
could totally chop. Oops. I could chop here.
yeah,
And there would be no analogous situation here. There's no way for me to, chop below this, let's say. Let's say that's
yes,
the, yeah. So these two are not the same.
yes. These two are not the same.
Okay. So having got there, can you repeat now what you said just before the weight of the, yeah, so Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So, do you want me to continue or?
Sure. Or I'm actually going to ask Bharti if she'd like to. Oops. All right. Bharti, would you like to explain what you've put in the chat?
I put one because you had said that when you had two,
Uh-huh.
equal chance of canceling, it's like canceling each other out. So
Yeah, it's kind of a mirroring argument. So
yeah.
it's
So
like
now we have four. So let's just
exactly.
put one.
So
That's
this
fine.
will all become zero, effectively above the node. This would be like a free node, and that would be a 1. Yeah, I'm happy to say this all again. So anybody who has something in the chat. So Ishan, Disha, Nilesh, I'm assuming this is the same argument you were making.
Yeah, that's correct. So once we apply mirroring, we'll either have 0 or 1 in a general case. And then we add 1 for the bottom stem. So it becomes either 1 or 0. In this case, because they're an even number, 4, so they all get paired up and we get 0 plus 1, which is 1.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. Yeah. So maybe at the end, if it's not yet made sense, we can come back to it. Okay, so this is the simplest thing that could have happened, right? Just this tree, because as you can see, they're all like separate little. Let's make life a little bit harder because, as you can see, Conway really has fun with the things he does. Okay, so what about this apple tree? And well, because I'm a little lazy, I don't want to do the whole entire apple tree. Let's just take a small part of this apple tree and see if we can work. So let me pull this bit out here. And ask, how would I go about analyzing this? And so what's new here? So everything except the apple we've sort of met before, right? So what I'm going to say is that, well, the apple, I could sort of treat it like just one, I treat it like one piece. As you can see, there's only one node, it's here, right? So it's attached just there. Okay, so would anyone like putting numbers on this tree? Maybe, yeah, all right. And when you think about it, you just ask what is what is immediately connected to above it. So when you get, yeah, okay. Anyway, Neha, you're on doing.
I get yeah, I got confused here now. So I started from the two branches, and I like the net is 0 for them, and
Wonderful.
then
You've gotten,
yeah,
you've gone and you've put a 1 here.
1 here,
Okay,
and
that's what
yeah,
you're saying. All right.
and yeah. So now this one is connected to
No,
one.
but now it's going to be a little bit hard to think about this without working your way along the other branch, right? So we probably want to think about this bit here first.
Okay.
And again, that's old hat. We know how to do this. Yeah, oopsie. Apparently. All right. Again, this is and there's nothing supported here. So that's
Yeah, 1. Okay.
this one is only supporting this one out here. So the green one, this green one
Should be 1 again.
supports, well,
No,
should be,
2.
yeah,
2.
because it
Yeah.
supports only the red one.
Huh.
Now, if you come to this branch here, well, it's connect. It's a 2 and a 1.
Okay.
But they're both separate. They're not. It's not that the 2 is. So this becomes a 3, and then that becomes a 4. Because okay, so this this 3 here, it's its own edge, this edge here, and that there are the separate chops you could do.
I got till 2, but why did that 3 come up? I am a little confused because so
I hope it's not because I messed up. Hold on. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
so here if we see now the one which is labeled as 3, the one which to which we have given the weight 3, it is connected to two branches. One which has 2 plus 1 and one which, sorry, 2 and 1 and one which has 1.
Yeah.
How do we get it 3? Like, I did not understand
Yeah,
why.
why can't they be paired up?
All right. Okay. Well, what would you do with such such a line of nim?
1, weight 2. Uh,
As in, this is not Neha to yours. This is to the question of how can't they be paired up? So my question is, well, how would you do that? So
So
essentially, you're
if you-
adding one. Yeah, sorry.
if you strike off the branch with weight 2, then the opponent has the option of
Now I'm
striking.
wondering whether what? Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, if I strike off the branch with the weight 2, then the opponent has a chance of striking off the other branch, which we gave the weight 1. Therefore,
Yeah.
that 3 is basically equivalent to a single stem, right? So it should be 1.
Sorry. I was distracted by wondering whether I should have made this a 4. Hold on just a second. Let me now actually listen. Would you please say that once more?
Yeah, so there are 2 branches connected to the one that you have labeled 3, right?
There are two. Yeah, actually, I think it should be 4 because all I'm doing is taking the sum here and adding 1, right? So if this is a 2 and that is a 1,
But before taking the sum, we always subtract all the pairs, right?
but there aren't any. So the thing is that in terms of nim, right? A 2 and a 1, it's not that you're just directly adding them, right?
Okay. So the pairs must be identical, okay?
Correct. So there must be an exact replica in some sense. I don't know whether
Okay.
in
In
terms of
that
the
case,
exact.
yeah,
Yeah,
in that case, I agree it should be 4. Yeah.
correct. So you essentially take, yeah, I don't know if there's a better way to explain this. Yeah, so this should have been a 4. I think I just did add it and I forgot to add 1, and that same error would have propagated down, except no, I didn't type in anymore. Okay, so then the next thing that we have to figure out. So if you go back and look at this very, very complicated picture, and maybe I will leave you to look a little bit at there's all sorts of stuff going on. Yeah, like for instance, what's going on here? How do you analyze things like this, right? Where there's a cycle. So that's the next thing we have to figure out. So we figured out what to do if you have branches like that. We figured out what to do if you have a loop like that. But we haven't figured out what to do if you have a cycle like this. So that's the next order of business. So essentially now what you do is you take all these nodes and you kind of collapse them. So you bring them all to a point. I'll show you a picture. So and you end up with things that are now familiar. So essentially, I don't know whether Neil, is there something about graph theory that I don't know that would help make this clearer? Or is there some better way to argue this?
Well, definitely does feel a lot like a graph structure here for sure, but I'm just off the top of my head, I don't know if
Yeah, because I'm just imagining it as well. What makes sense in some sense, but I don't know.
fine. I don't think there's something you can import directly that will make your life much easier. So I think you can do your first principles argument and it'll be just fine.
Okay, all right. Until someone tells me they can do better, I will continue on my clueless path. All right. So what you do then is if you have these cycles, so what I'm going to try. So this is all working up to this beautiful picture in this article where Neha, if you want to get rid of these blue marks for a minute. Thank you. So the question is, how do you assign? So this is, I can't remember what it's called in the article, something like girl standing on one foot. Yeah, girl standing on one foot. And the question is, how would you set about assigning a weight? So how do you turn this girl into a row of counters, right? And so the process is to go, well, what they're going to start by doing. So in step one, what's happened here, from here to here, you've just gone around looking for cycles. So you see that there's one. Why would I choose black? Hold on a second. You go here, there's a cycle in here. Yeah, these are two separate. Notice that these are two separate paths. Right? It's not the same as the hair, the ribbons in her hair. It's not the same as that. And so you have one more cycle going on here, the purple. So that's what's happened in the first step. So what you've done is you've taken all these nodes and brought them into a point, leading you to have a certain number of flower petals, sort of. So this one, 2, 3, 4, 5 petals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 petals. Okay, so that's her skirt. And then her head, again, you bring these two together with 2 loops. That's her head. So the girl has now become some sort of flower tree. And then you turn her into these branches, right? So because now what you do is you merge anything that's a loop is just basically a line. So that's this. And now let's see. So now if it's clear how to get from here to here to here, I will help you walk through and put numbers on her. So my question is, don't worry about the weight value for a minute. Just tell me whether the argument that got us from the girl to the tree, is that coherent?
The bringing together of those points in a cycle that's not clear to me.
Okay, all right, let's go back.
We can go back to the previous, this one.
Yeah, okay. So essentially, to the why of it, right? I think I don't know. Right. So Neil, can you tell me why something like this? If I took something like this, if I were to start disconnecting this in some sense. So, okay, so the argument that is being made here, right? Is it these, yeah.
We could say that it's one cut away from being just a single chain, right? Single line.
Yes, I suppose that's one way of seeing it, yeah. But what you're turning it into, right, is essentially you're saying that there are these yeah, okay. And the reason there aren't 4, hold on a moment. The reason there aren't 4 is because this is the ground. Oops. So here is the ground. Let me try to. Here is the ground. On top of the ground, there are branches that go like this, this, and that, right? Well, I could disconnect it by cutting. Well, did you say that by disconnecting it, I could make a chain? Well, not
No,
really. Yeah.
no, what I'm saying now is like if you cut the left side of the door and right side of the door,
Yeah.
then the structure collapses.
Oh, yeah,
Only
sure. But no, right. But the thing about it is you'd have to cut both to collapse it.
correct, but that's not what is um, being indicated in the petal picture, the second version of it, right?
No, what what this is really telling you is that in some sense, these three are equal, right? That they are not that even though so if I were to disconnect this, you get two separate branches, right? Okay, I can argue it that way. Hold on a moment. Let's think about it that way. If I were to cut this, what do I see? I would see
I get two independent
you
stems.
get two independent stems. Now let's ask for a minute what would happen if I were to cut this.
Then I get a tower of two.
You would get, this is actually true, right? You get this and that, they would still be standing completely fine. But it does feel as if there's a dependence because there's this gravity thing that does feel like as if, it does feel to me as if this is not equal to that. And yet this analysis would indicate that it is, which is, yeah, I'm willing to read more about it. I don't know and wasn't able to find anything on weights other than Gardner's article. So yeah, so some part of this is me doing my best attempt at understanding, but if anybody has anything to add. Yeah, okay. So yeah, so I will think a little bit more about why this could be true. Why is it so I had some sort of intuition. Well, okay, let me think about it a little bit more. And let's for a minute pretend that instead of that complicated thing, we had this. Question is, how would you go about assigning a weight? This was really the last thing. Should I leave this to you to try out? I mean, the weight is given. Well, maybe let me just walk through it. What to see? Okay, so 1, 1, 1. So effectively, that leaves you a sum of 1. Add 1 to get the 2 here. This piece.
I guess you could get all the ones out of the way in one shot, as in those are all the leaves, right? I mean, or whatever the.
I'm going to get rid of all of these guys, right?
Yeah, I suppose that too.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so then I say, then I will add 1 to that to get the 3 here. Add 1 to that being the 2 here, right? Because effectively both the hands are symmetric in that, right? And then now you go and look at, let's start from anything. So even though this is a leg, right? Effectively, it's the same as the hair because it's something that's balancing off the ground and is only supported to the main structure here, right? So you go branch 1, 2, 3 is the exact same argument as this piece here. Okay, and I will erase all that. Okay, so I'm arguing that there is no difference between moving up from the hair to whatever this was, I think, and moving from the toe to the, moving here to the skirt, what used to be the skirt, right? So up to this 3. So up until here, are you guys with me? And maybe the ones are not so bad either. I think this too may be the slightly hard thing to see. It's this cancels that, this cancels that, this cancels that. You're left with a 1. You add 1 to it to get 2. You add 1 to that to get 3. Add 1 to that to get 4. Yeah, I don't know if that made sense. So I will stop now and let people tell me what could make more sense, perhaps.
I think this was fine for me, but I don't know, maybe others.
Yeah, I think with the exception of this thing is clearly not clear to me either why So it's written in the article as a prescription of, take all the nodes and collect them and collapse them and look at all these loops. So there's 1, 2, 3, that when you collapse them, it becomes like 3 loops.
Right.
Right, but
When I work with graphs, and the closest I can think of is, I think in graphs you have these operations with edges that are called contractions, but this doesn't exactly look like a contraction necessarily. I don't know what's exactly going on. But yeah, I'm happy to just sleep over the loopy parts. But
yeah, me too. I think it becomes maybe we all just need to think about it a little.
yeah. But the tree portions, I think, yeah, when you don't have the cycles, I think if that part isn't clear to folks in the audience, perhaps, yeah, give us a shout and we can try to go over that again, maybe. But otherwise, yeah. Yeah. Also, I think these tree-like structures are very common when you're dealing with graphs, and I don't know if there's a way of saying it where you work outwards from the leaves, where the leaves are literally the things that are sticking out. And you can kind of define everything in sort of a recursive way, working your way inwards towards what you would call the root or the center, or whatever is convenient terminology.
Mhm. And when you say the center, do you mean
Yep.
where you converge these nodes?
Okay, maybe not precisely that. So in this, I think the picture to the left, assuming the circles were not there, by the center, I just mean work your way outwards in starting from the leaves all the way to the root would literally be the thing on the ground. Although in this case, the root is also a leaf, which is kind of annoying. But no, never mind. I think basically all of these terms can be made precise, and when you're dealing with trees, it's often like the way trees are defined, or at least one of the ways rooted trees are defined, is the definition itself is inherently recursive. And usually a lot of things that you want to do with them, um, you can simply outsource a lot of the heavy lifting to the recursion. But I think what you've done is you've actually played it out anyway, which I think was quite helpful. So yeah, I don't know. I mean,
That's
like,
because I have no idea what I'm on about, right? So
no,
it's
no.
kind of helpful to be as clueless as any audience member possible.
No, I think it was quite, I think, yeah, the building up of the numbering on the tree wala thing, I think, if, like I said, if that wasn't clear to anyone, maybe we can run through it again. Let us know. Otherwise, I think this is probably a nice place to wind up this discussion, and we can take loops back as homework and come back. And I don't know if you want to advertise what we are planning to do on Monday, or yeah.
No, I haven't decided whether I want to do with or do a bit more hack and brush, even though there is no hack and brush no more in Gardner. But because it felt so okay, so width of NIM is what is officially on the schedule.
Yeah, okay. All right. So yeah, we're going to take a break over the weekend and then perhaps resume on Monday. So unless there are any more comments, at least I plan to take this off the record right now. Wait for a second. Somebody unmuted, but I don't know if we're going to say something. Okay, perhaps not. All
I
right.
do have one question. When we're off the record, there was one thing that I'd been asked for clarification.
Sure. We aren't off the record yet, so let's just say bye and good night, and see you on Monday.
Good night, everyone.